Hello and welcome to Sports Counsel, your playbook for all things sports. I am your host Matt, and I'm here with Vivek and Dillon for this episode of the show. The Golden State Warriors are officially out of the 2025 playoffs, losing in the Conference Semifinals in 5 games. We recap a season full of ups and downs for Golden State and discuss what should be next for them this offseason. Plus, we look ahead to the upcoming conference finals and offer our analysis and predictions for who will move on to the NBA Finals. Today is May 18th, 2025, and this is episode 176 of the show. All right, guys, it's back to this episode again. The episode we never really want to record until like late June, but here we are.
Pain. Just pain.
Depression.
It's been a couple days now, right? Is it the emotion worn off a little bit? I feel like, you kind of have to accept it at a certain point. I mean, we've seen our playoff losses. We've seen our postseason losses. So on a scale of 1 to 10, did you really feel like, how depressed were you after that Game 5 loss?
For me, I remember when Steph went down and we won Game 1, I was pretty hyped and pretty confident that we'd at least take one more game from the T-Wolves. But as you see each game progress, from Game 2 to Game 3 to Game 4, you just feel like all the hope just gets sucked out of you just by watching them. So, and by the time Game 5 ended, I was just I just felt nothing. I didn't feel sad or a mixed amount of emotions. I just felt wow, it's we just went out like this.
Yeah, I think I'm around the same as Dylan. So to recap, we had to sort of buy time, win a game or two to try to get Steph back for that Game 6, obviously, right? And so I thought Game 3 was going really well, and then the collapse happened in the fourth quarter. I mean, the T-Wolves just gained ground. Randle played great, and that was really the turning point in my mind regarding the whole series. I just realized right then and there that it wasn't going to happen. Jimmy and Buddy played out of their minds, but I mean, we'll go into scapegoats, heroes, people who could have done better a bit later on it. But I just kind of knew when that loss happened that this team just didn't have what it took, sans Steph, to go far. And I kind of knew that intellectually, from a cognitive basis, that, when you look at the splits, there's that one famous meme going around regarding the Warriors' performance with Steph and without Steph.
It's the very offensive stark. Rating, right?
The offensive rating. Exactly, dude. Yeah, I just kind of knew that this team just doesn't have what it takes when they don't have their best player. And I mean, that's true for most teams, but it's really true when you don't have 30 on the court.
We are going to be talking Warriors all this episode, but before we get to that, we are Sports Counsel. This is the Sports Counsel podcast. You can find our social media handles on Twitter, Threads, Instagram. We are sports_counsel on all of those. And if you want to discuss with us there, we also have a Discord link in the bios as well. Just wanted to plug that in there for a second because we want to hear your thoughts, obviously, after, you kind of hear our thoughts. So once again, sports_counsel on all social media platforms. But yeah, I mean, let's start all the way from the beginning here because I agree with you, Viv, and I want to talk about that for a second for that Game 3 in particular. But let's just recap all the way back to the Warriors season, get a little perspective to begin this kind of analysis, I guess, or I guess rant. It's a little
really
bit going to be in between.
Yeah,
Post-mortem, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Because the season's dead.
The first stage is acceptance.
I don't think that's the first stage, but
I believe it's the final stage. But
the final stage.
Oh,
maybe we'll
my
reach it
bad.
before we get
all
here.
the same.
May after this entire episode.
Yeah,
we'll
that's the goal. This is our therapy. But let's recap.
We're gonna speedrun Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of depression right now, so bear with us.
So to start off the season, the Warriors kind of lost Klay Thompson, the Splash Brother next to Steph, and replaced him with guys like Buddy Hield, Kyle Anderson. They made all these signings, and they kind of started off with a 12-man rotation. They said, who's going to step up next to Steph? Everyone's going to step up next to Steph. We're going to have a 12-man rotation. And it worked well. They started off 12-3 to begin the season. They were looking really hot. They were the top seed in the West for the first month. And then DeAnthony Melton, one of their big signings, got hurt. and they start losing, and they go 16-16 heading into December. And then they make a trade for Dennis Schroeder around mid-December. And even when they made that trade, they struggled to be above 500 as a team. They kept on like winning a game, losing a game, winning a game, losing a game. I don't think they won like 3 straight for like the longest time as well. And then finally in late January, I think right at the trade deadline, they traded for Jimmy Butler, traded a lot of pieces, including Andrew Wiggins, the 2022 Finals hero, and they trade for him at the trade deadline, and all of a sudden everything starts to click. Right after the All-Star break, they go 23-8 with Jimmy Butler. They finish as a 7th seed, go into the play-in, beat Memphis in the play-in, upset the Rockets, the 2nd seed, in 7 games, and then unfortunately it comes to an end because in Game 1, Steph Curry hurts his hamstring. He sprains his hamstring against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They end up winning that game, but they lose to the Timberwolves 4 straight times in 5, and that ends the Golden State Warriors season. And the reason why I kind of wanted to recap all of that is because, God, this season has been really, really, really long if you think about it like that. I feel like there were like 3 separate arcs in that where it looked like we were super good to begin the season. Then we had like this weird kind of struggle period with all these random players. And then, we had Jimmy Butler and everything looked great again. Like, it's been a very memorable season for sure.
It feels like multiple seasons rolled in one. Like it was a TV show at multiple seasons. And I like the way that you said arcs, Matt, because that's the way I look at it too. If you really think about the very beginning of the season versus where we are now, I can promise you that I wouldn't take the betting odds that we would end up where we were. And honestly, in a positive way, because at the very middle of the season, this team was just clearly going nowhere. They didn't really have an identity outside of Steph. It was very blatant that they needed some sort of shake-up in the roster, and Mike Dunleavy Jr. ended up making a Hail Mary trade for Jimmy Butler and getting him at a very low value relative to what he's worth as a player in terms of impact, and sort of the honeymoon period, and Denver's running, that 5-6 man rotation and going crazy at the end of the season and then pulling through versus Houston. That's definitely like kind of winning with house money in a sense compared to where we were at the beginning. So all in all, if you had to give a sort of final rating, they definitely exceeded expectations in my book.
Yeah, and like it reminds me a lot of the 2023 Niners. For those of you who are Bay Area fans for all the teams and you were a Niners fan, this was like their 2023 season where Trey Lance was supposed to be the starter for the Niners and then he got hurt immediately. Then Jimmy G came in and then he got hurt. And like it was just super weird. Like you didn't really have a lot of expectations after you lose 2 of your quarterbacks. And then Brock Purdy comes in and then you make a big trade for Christian McCaffrey. When they were also like 500 at the trade deadline, they make a move for Christian McCaffrey. Then they win like 8 straight or something, get to the NFC Championship game. And then coincidentally, their third quarterback, Brock Purdy, goes down with the injury and they have no chance, right? It felt like exactly like that, right? You make the trade for Butler.
That's a great analogy,
and then,
actually.
Like, Brock,
that's
and then
pretty much
Steph
what it
gets
was.
hurt. Yeah, it's like that's exactly how I kind of felt like it was. It feels a little... It feels worse, though, I guess, in a way, for the Warriors. I don't know how to describe, like, Bay Area pain. I don't know which one was worse, but it feels a little bit worse here because, like, Steph is 37, right? And that's,
his
like,
window's
the
almost
thing.
closing.
Exactly. Like, you feel like, oh, God, like, every year now is a lot more important. Even though we kind of really weren't that great as a team overall, like, you still felt a little bit of hope and you want Steph to win that ring, right? Like, this probably wasn't a contending team outside of Steph, and we just saw that, right? Like you said, Viv, like Game 3, we really should have won that game, and I cannot believe how we blew that. That was the game we should have gotten, and if we won that game, this series probably would have still been going on because it was Game 6. Today would be Game 6.
It would have been Game 6. I mean, given that, obviously, Steph would have rust, and if he were to play the hypothetical, you never know. I mean, at least now you have Steph Curry on the court, and that changes the whole game just by definition. But yeah, the point is this, right? We would still be playing basketball right now, or rather the Warriors would still be playing basketball right now. And Game 3 was definitely the one that got away. And you're absolutely on the money regarding, the urgency of winning a title or making a deep playoff run. Because if I want to be a realist about it, which frankly seems to be a synonym for being a bit of a pessimist,
Sure.
this is perhaps one of the best opportunities that we have for a deep playoff run going forward. Because the West is so competitive. There's so many young teams on the come up, and just the amount of competition that seems to just be brewing up in the West, along with some few key free agents that we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
That are probably going to be making their way out West potentially. It just only adds for an environment that's very competitive, and with an aging roster, really just like their best players being sort of the age in that roster, it's very, very hard to make it all work with another year of 82 games under their feet.
It's just nowadays it's really hard to construct rosters because the second apron, and like now we have to like hope and bet that like the picks that we make in the draft like
pan out
for us, and also just finding free agents that like we're able to get like bang for our buck. But that's just so hard nowadays, because like back then when it was like it felt so much easier, and like owners would just have to pay like the luxury tax and not have to worry about the second apron. But now it's kind of like it's so hard, and we have to like pick and choose on what we want and what we had to give up. So
yeah, you can shout out CJ McCollum for that, man. He completely destroyed the CBA with his terrible deal with the NBA.
Because he just mad that we were rolling over him during the playoffs.
I don't think he ever won against Steph in the playoffs in his life. I'm pretty sure.
God,
I'm pretty sure that's
those Portland Warriors series. Like the Blazers just never really had a chance in any of those playoff matchups. It was pretty disgusting to watch.
You talk about ownage of the Rockets. I mean, Trailblazers were even worse than that. But yeah,
they had nothing to cheer for when we beat them at their gym.
And never forget when we literally beat them with Alfonso McKinney as a starter.
Alfonso McKinney, Quinn Cook, Jonas Jerebko. Get shit
Bro
on.
literally had Stephen A. Smith going crazy. He was like, "This brother Alfonso McKinney's going to be special, man."
Dude,
and
I
that's
don't think I ever
like,
saw him again.
I don't think he ever got meaningful minutes ever again in his NBA career. But that's the point, right? Like just that core in 2018, 2019 was so dominant for the Warriors that a great backcourt, quite frankly, and Dame and CJ just never really stood a fleeting chance against them. And as the West gets more competitive, and as these young teams come up, they aren't really being hit with the luxury tax implications just yet, right? Like OKC is an example of that. Chet's on his rookie year deal. I believe J-Dub is too. Then you have the Spurs too. Then the Rockets as well. So like there's all these teams that are trying to get in the mix in 4A. And honestly, even Dallas with getting, potentially getting Cooper, unless Nico does something crazy, along with, Kyrie coming back in AD, that could be a competitive team too, right? So there's a lot of competition that's out in the West, and they are going to face the salary cap implications at some point, but the Warriors are getting hit with it right now.
I think like I was gonna say like what this series or this playoff series made me appreciate was like back when we had like the 2014-2015 roster, or like the 2017-2018 roster,
sure,
with that deep ass bench with like Sean Livingston and like Leandro Barbosa, like Andre Iguodala, Mo Spates, just all of them. It made me appreciate how much like talent and how much
like we didn't have that now, right?
Yeah, we don't have that, but it showed like when like if Steph had an off day, right? Like we had a really good bench that can like offset those off days for Steph. And now we're just kind of like, it's so hard with like what we have, or based on recent results, it's just so hard to support Steph when we're just putting all our chips onto Steph.
Yeah.
Just like hoping for the best.
And I do want to talk more about the on the court product right now. We saw without Steph, and kind of what we saw in both playoff series. Like when you look at these games, and we talk about how we could have won Game 3, but I mean Game 4 and Game 5, complete blowouts, both sides. And the biggest thing I think I saw in that one, and when we were like losing in that Rockets series, games 5 and 6, is that like the two things we were mentioning, right? No bench, and the lack of youth is really starting to show in these guys, because when you have like, Steph, Dre, and Butler, I mean, they're still great and they should still be on the court. But the fact is, like, when you're kind of older out there, some of these guys, when the Rockets, like Amen Thompson, he kind of like, he blew by some of these guys, right? And then for one thing, is that we don't have like the youth and kind of the energy, I guess, to keep up. Like when you have back-to-back games every time, you could kind of see these guys are getting tired and the shots were like falling short and like they didn't have their legs in it anymore. But they also couldn't recover very quick. So then another guy had to be pulled in to help at the rim. Then you kick it out and Van Vliet's open for three, right? Or something like that. Like with the Timberwolves, it's the same thing as well. Like it looked like they were getting outmatched in terms of energy because they're just tired and a little bit older and they can't recover as quickly. But then you also need, like, if there's a guy and they're driving inside the rim, you gotta get a big man in there, right? We need a big man finally. Like even in those like championship teams, we had Bogut, we had Zaza, we had McGee, right? I was just watching like the 2017 highlights because I was sad. And McGee is a big influence. He was a big part of like what we did. Like he was like a lob threat. Do we really have a lob threat now? I don't think so.
No,
right?
We only have QP and Looney.
Yeah.
But Quinn only spaces to the three. Looney
can't jump. I love him, but he can't jump. And he can't catch. But I love Kevon Looney, by the way. He's like one of my favorite players ever. In a Warriors uniform, I would buy his jersey right now, but
buy it right now.
He's very limited. I'll let you know, okay? But yeah, I feel like that's the two biggest things. We need some youth, and we need some depth, and we need some size. Like those are kind of the biggest things we need right now. And like even in the 2022 roster, we had guys like Jordan Poole, right? Otto Porter, Bielitsa, right? Those were significant. That's true. I feel like I'm ranting a little bit here, guys. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I think this is a therapy. This is cathartic for us.
Let it all out. It's a safe space, man.
Yeah, it is.
I guess I'll just go ahead and give my little piece while we're at it regarding the roster. I think that the problem really is that there just isn't a really substantial bench that's able to do consistent damage on the court. And I mean damage in a good way in terms of positively impacting the game. It feels that the players are a little tepid and fearful even to just let shots fly and just make mistakes on the court and just really fight it out. Like it feels like a brand of basketball where you're being coached to play one way, and that way is very complimentary to Steph. Yeah. You should always look for Steph, look for 30, because 30 is the whole offense, he's the engine. But we need players that can create on their own and aren't afraid of making mistakes and are willing to drive to the cup, go do some isolation offense. Poole, for all his faults, was willing to just be an offensive engine and be an isolation scorer. And we need that presence right now because there really isn't great shot creation in this team outside of Jimmy and Steph. And, this is exactly why the Jimmy Butler acquisition was so valuable, because in the non-Steph minutes, Jimmy, when, half of his butt wasn't injured from that fall in the Houston series, he was able to be that interior playmaker, drive and kick, hit those tough mid-range shots, be able to rebound incredibly. Yeah, foul. Ethically or non-ethically, I will leave that up to the audience to decide. I'm not going to comment on that. I plead the fifth. But the point is, he was able to create offense, and we really just don't have players that are able to do that. I mean, Andre Iguodala he could hit those timely threes. Sean Livingston, his mid-range is literally the work of God themselves.
Dude, Barbosa's
drives.
His middies, though.
Yeah, most spades with his little hooks and even that mid range. Like everyone had
Elbow.
a little offensive move that they could go to that was money when it was called upon, and and I mean even Boca with the screens, right? Looney's able to set those screens well too, but like the point is we kind of need more offense all around from the roster. I can't really think of any single Warriors player right now on the bench that has some sort of go-to move that they can really do on offense. I mean, you got Pajemski with his ability to take charges
Dude,
and fight for loose balls. Moody
Draymond,
just
Draymond, when he drives, he's good at flailing.
he's good at flailing, right? Like Moody, I love Moody, but I feel like he just
I don't know what
I don't know
happened
if
to
it's a
him, man.
Steve
He
Kerr
fell off. Like
thing.
no, but it was weird because he just stopped shooting the ball well. That's the thing. He was a
Yeah,
starter heading into the postseason, and then all of a sudden, like his shot just stopped working. I can't blame Steve Kerr for benching him. Like we'll talk about Jonathan Kuminga in a little bit here, but Moody, I don't know what happened, and I've been a big Moody supporter. Like his shot just wasn't there anymore.
it wasn't there, and I feel like I mean you're definitely right, Matt. All of this is really leading up is sort of the build up to a Kuminga conversation, which I feel like needs to be had this offseason for sure. But I think the sort of prerequisite or the prior that I want to talk about is the fact that Steve Kerr, when it comes to developing young talent, look, I get it. We're in a win now situation, but there needs to be some sort of infusion of scoring from, the youth movement.
Hmm.
And I really hate harping on Poole because he's been gone for a while now, but for all of his faults, and even though he had a pretty bad last season with the Warriors, I mean, which is understandable given the
The
off court
punch, yeah.
situation. Yeah, exactly that. Like he showed promise in being able to sort of hold up the scoring, and we really need that because if you look at all of the teams that are remaining in the playoffs, they're being led by their stars for sure, but these are just great rotations from the
Hmm.
top down.
I used
They're
to
not afraid to
slander.
shoot.
Yeah, I used to slander Poole a lot for always shooting everything and like chucking
Yes.
shots. I used to slander him, but I mean, we kind of need that right now. Like, we need someone who's not afraid. Like, you saw Pajemski out there, and you guys get frustrated. Like, again, I'm harping back to like watching these games. There was so many shot clock violations out there. Even again, not even in just the Steph-less games, in the Steph games with the Rockets, there were a lot of shot clock violations because everyone kept just passing it back to Butler, passing it back to Curry, and expecting them to make a shot. And that's great, right? Sometimes you got to feed your stars, and that's a good thing. But you can't be so passive. Like, do you see that shot in the game 5 where Pajemski, he had a wide open shot in like the fourth quarter. He jumped up and then he passed it back. And it was a turnover
Yeah,
because
I think
because he was just trying to pass. I was like, what are you doing? And
that
then
got
Steve Kerr
clipped a
yelled at
lot.
him
Yeah,
immediately.
you
Yeah.
you I think it's like even bled into or in previous games in like game 1 and game 2, like when Steph went down, like a few times when pods like just chucked the ball at like 1 second. I'm like, what the fuck are you
Yeah,
doing, bro?
it's literally the
It's just
RDC World like Ben Simmons clip. If
it's
you
just
guys know that.
it
yeah.
just
Like
really
what's the point of being
pissed me
timid?
off.
Yeah,
It makes me
you gotta
mad
do
too,
something.
man.
Because I think like a good example who stepped up in a Warriors uniform when Steph went down was Sean Livingston. When
Hmm.
I think when Steph fell on his head or slipped in midair or fell in midair, and like Sean Livingston had to like fill in for him, he was not afraid to shoot the ball like at all. He
Hmm.
was like, if I see opportunity, if I see a mismatch, I'm gonna take it. But
Yeah,
I just felt like this roster, like it's very like it's fine to defer to Steph, but when he's not around, like everyone as a whole group in a collective has to like step up on the offense together
hmm,
and just not. I think also a thing was just not hesitating to shoot the ball because a lot of these players like once you hit one, then the rim gets bigger, and I just felt like
exactly.
we were so like allergic to shoot for some reason, and we kept
It,
deferring to each other.
it's part of the philosophy Steve Kerr has, where it's like, look for the best shot. Don't look for a good shot. Look for the best shot. And I get that, but I don't think even Steve Kerr would say, just keep passing until you find the wide open, because eventually you have to. Someone's got to shoot it, eventually.
You only get 24 seconds each possession. And I mean, look, this is exactly why players like, J.R. Smith, Lou Will, Jordan Clarkson, for them being pointed out as being boneheaded players in certain possessions, I still think that, I mean, they've all won like 6 Man of the Year awards for a reason, because they aren't unafraid. They are willing to meet the moment, and they approach the game like the same way, whether they're hot or whether they're not hot. And you just have to be willing to let it fly and be bold, like this is an NBA game. Like, we're in the playoffs over here. Your best player isn't in. You need to be the offense, like your minutes without a star player are still minutes on the NBA court. Like, just because you aren't the star player doesn't mean that you should just feel like you're a supporting role player. Like, you are the offense at that point, and you just cannot win a championship only with your best players. It needs to be a team effort, and that has to change going forward.
And I think
like
Buddy's
series.
Buddy Hield's, I think, that guy for us. Like, he's the shooter that we need. He wasn't. I mean, he had 2 great games, 7 and 1, right? And then I don't know what happened at the end after that. Maybe they kind of locked him down a little bit
Game
more.
3 was a great one from Hield too, I want to say.
Yeah, like
he and Butler. I mean, we would have just won the game, frankly, if we just kept the momentum going.
If did some shit, but
I know.
And Draymond didn't foul out.
I don't want to slander.
Point.
I don't want to slander Pods too much. Yes, Draymond fouling out was a huge turn. Like,
yeah,
I didn't like that foul, by the way, but we're not gonna go all rough analyzing. But
there was a ticky tack, but you're right. I mean, just him getting out was it was devastating.
Yeah, but Pods, like, I don't want to slander him. I literally just said on the last episode I was never gonna slander him again. I mean, but he just needs to be a little bit more aggressive, and I think Steve Kerr mentioned it in his post game, like season thing. He's like, we're gonna make sure he shoots more. It's like, we're gonna, like, he has to be more aggressive, and I agree with that. But let's talk about a guy who was a little bit more aggressive, and kind of going back to your point, Viv, about the youth development, Jonathan Kuminga. I feel like we got to talk about him just for a brief second here, right? Because I think right now, I mean, first of all, do we all agree, like, he's probably leaving? Like, I think that's what's going to happen.
I think just by hearing, like, the tone and, like, what the media has been talking about him and Steve Kerr, and just, like, how sometimes he's focused and sometimes he's not, I think I think it's best for him. I think he knows it, too, that he needs a new environment to play in, because I don't think how he plays the game is in parallel to how Steve Kerr wants the game to be played.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
I think that's just, like, the biggest, like, pain point for both parties. And and we had this guy for like 4 years already, but it still hasn't shown in his development compared to, like, for example, like Moses Moody, right? He's able to, like, start to understand the offense better and know what to do, how to cut. But Kuminga, it's more like, I think what pisses me off the most is, like, whenever I go see a Warriors game, or just watching a Warriors game in general, every time Kuminga drives to the basket, it's either he gets stripped, or
he gets stripped a lot.
He gets stripped, or he misses the shot. That's why every time he drives, I kind of clench my butt a little bit, because I'm like, oh, this is where he's gonna, like, turn the ball over. So, and
he has one move, right? And if the move doesn't work, if he gets stopped before he fully completes the drive, he doesn't know what the fuck to do, because he doesn't pass it. Like, there's guys that are wide open. Yeah, he just stops, and then he tries to turn around, Jay falling away, like, but it doesn't work. That's the thing. He needs to develop a little bit more of his offensive bag, because he has the one move. The one move works. It gets him 20 points per game sometimes, but you can't just be that, right? If you want that contract you can't just do that.
Yeah, I want to talk more about Kuminga, because every single time you see him on the court, it's so predictable. All of the other 9 players on the court, the coach is on the sideline, and the whole arena, and literally everyone across the whole world watching on TV knows exactly what happens when Jonathan Kuminga gets his hands on the ball. It's either he dribbles for a little bit, tries to go for a drive, he never tries to kick it out, It's always that turnaround J, or he gets stripped while going up for the ball. And there's just not really much motion. Like he'll only pass the ball back, when it's like very early on in the possession, and like Draymond will make a outlet pass to him, and Kuminga's supposed to just pass it back really quickly, or he'll just like be open for a catch and shoot three, which he'll make not a great clip of those, but it's just so it's barely more than one dimensional, his offensive game, and really the frustration of it, like y'all were saying, Dylan and Matt, where it's just not very complimentary to the philosophy that Kerr and Curry have, or really Kerr, because you're supposed to look for Steph when Steph's on the court, and I get it. You're supposed to look like you want to be able to develop your own bag. You want to like look off him sometimes because sometimes the drive is safer to do. I totally get that, but it just needs to have a better balance between looking to score in isolation and playing within a system. And I'm not going to be dogmatic and say that, Kerr's system is the only way to play basketball, but it's very apparent that it's a little bit hard for Steph and Kuminga to coexist. And there was some positive development on that, what Steph and Kuminga getting better at pick and rolls, for example, or Kuminga being able to do a pick and pop, but you just still haven't really seen enough to warrant this huge contract extension from him. And, while Kuminga has shown flashes of being able to play great defense, like, what he was showing,
he's a great on-ball defender. He's really good at locking up Anthony Edwards one-on-one, but he's terrible off-ball. He just stops paying attention. I've seen it a couple
He was also
times.
really good with Jalen Green, too. Like, he was brought in that series, and while he wasn't scoring great, I mean, look, Jalen Green wasn't the greatest offensive threat that whole series, but all of the tools have been there for Kuminga. It just hasn't really panned out in a way that's amenable to Kerr's philosophy. And at that point, maybe it's just best for both parties to move on, because both of them just want the other to do something, and they both seem to be at an impasse regarding how they want to move together. It doesn't feel like Kuminga is really, acting in accordance to the team. It always has been pitted by the media as Kuminga and his whole camp versus the Warriors and Steve Kerr.
This isn't even the first controversy we've had with Kuminga, right?
We had it last year too.
Yeah, when he dyed his hair yellow and then started scoring a lot because he wanted to be a starter.
Look like Chris Brown.
Yeah, man. Like he didn't Shams report something like, "Oh, I need to be in the starting lineup." Yeah, it was a whole thing. So
I remember he was
they
just
even
like
leaked the
venting
trade.
his frustrations, and like Steph told him like, "Yo, like you had something to vent about, like do it privately within the team, not with the media."
leak it. Yeah.
Yeah, because he leaked the trade request, right? That he mentioned that, or his camp, or rather, really Kuminga mentioned to the media that if Kuminga wasn't going to get consistent playing time by the trade deadline, then he and his camp would seek a trade. And that's what really held Steve Kerr's feet to the fire in the national media. And then he got some more playing time because of that. And then he went into this whole 20-point rampage from then on out. And look, the stats look good, right? 20 points per game, good amount of rebounds and all that. But when you actually watch him play on the court, it's still very apparent that he's a very raw player. And like the feel for basketball in terms of, making the extra pass or knowing where to be, or let's like, how do you play off ball, Matt? That's really what you pointed out. That is the biggest thing. Like, how do you make yourself a useful player when you aren't just looking to be a slasher?
He will cut. He'll make some cuts. He'll make some dunks, right? Draymond will find him sometimes. I'm concerned that when he's on ball and then he has to, no one cares about the passing lanes when Jonathan Kuminga has the ball. Let's just all go and surround him, honestly, because he's not going to pass it. That's the thing I'm concerned about. Off ball, when Draymond has the ball, maybe he'll cut sometimes. But off ball, he'll never, when he has the ball in his hands, he will not pass that thing. You know that. It's like a Michael Porter. Like a Michael Porter, or like a Jaylen Brown, he will not pass it.
That ball ain't coming
They'll
back,
just
man.
shoot it.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is the whole thing, the athletic people that the Warriors have gotten that are not very team centric or I guess offensively intelligent, like Wiseman, like James Wiseman, Kelly Oubre, Jonathan Kuminga, these don't work. Stop doing it. Like, I get the potential, I get the athleticism aspect of it, and we need that, right? I just said we needed it. We need more youth and athleticism, but they need to be a little bit smarter, I guess, in terms of knowing the system and actually adopting the system, right?
That's true. At the same time, I think the Warriors have swung the complete other way in their draft philosophy, which, has made a lot of sense given that the whole two timelines raw athletic project profile hasn't really panned out. And like we were saying before, I think it's really due to the win now mentality that the Warriors should have, given that you have one of the best point guards, if not the best point guard of all time, uh, leading your franchise, right? So you have Bujemski, you get Quinn Post, you get TJD, all are solid contributors, but they aren't going to be people that, in my honest opinion, are really going to be like those steady scorers that you need. Like, they're going to be
like
great
role players.
complementary. They're role players, right? But I don't know if they're like going to be the 7th through 9th people off the bench in a championship team just yet. I hope I eat my words. They're still so young, but that needs to happen in order for this team to have a chance. And if you're just going to keep drafting for, these reliable, more so like NBA ready prospects, you will sort of cap yourself to not getting scoring talent. And it definitely hurts in hindsight, because if you look at the Warriors draft misses versus who was available on the board, I mean, you have the classic examples
talk
of
about that, yeah.
Talking about Halliburton.
Yeah.
You talk about, Wagner.
Anthony Edwards.
Well, he was drafted ahead
Edwards
of
wasn't
us.
possible. He was drafted ahead, but there was even talk about if the Warriors had the number 1 pick, Joe
I
Lacob
think
was
he
so
was
enamored with
oh,
Weissman.
God.
So they would have probably given him the number 1 overall selection over Edwards at that point.
Yeah, man. Like, okay, let's move on here before we get too depressing about the whole draft part. But let's take a look ahead to this offseason here. Let's take a look at this roster right now. The current roster, we have Steph, Peyton, Pat Spencer at point guard. And we have guards like Podziemski and Buddy Hield at shooting. Our forwards are Jimmy Butler, Kuminga, Moody, Guy Santos, Kevin Knox. Centers right now, Draymond, Kevon Looney, Post, Trace Jackson Davis. Kevon Looney, Gary Payton, and Jonathan Kuminga most notably are the free agents right now heading into the offseason. Like, first of all, let's take a look at this roster really here. I think the only guys that we're probably going to see back for sure are Steph and Draymond. That's the only ones. I'd say
And Jimmy, right?
very good chance that Jimmy will be here. But I think we need to talk about this for a second because, I mean, let's just get right into it. Giannis Antetokounmpo is apparently unhappy right now in Milwaukee, and he should be because they've gotten basically swept both times in the first round to the Pacers, and Doc Rivers is still his coach. So I think he wants out, right? And if he wants out, I feel like this is like the dream scenario for the Warriors. I feel like the Warriors have kind of been hinting and flirting a little bit with Giannis, even though he's been in a very committed relationship for a very long time, right? But just because there's a goalkeeper doesn't mean you can't score, right?
Yo, is this guy on a hinge or what?
I'm not going to answer that. But either way, Giannis, if he is available, would you pursue him? Should the Warriors pursue him?
I think you kind of have to at this point. I mean, again, we only have like Jimmy on is it now considered one more season since we signed him on a 2-year contract? But
no, I think I don't know if this season counts, but let me take
as a year, right?
Yeah.
It probably hasn't started, but it's just that like Steph, again, it goes back to what you said about like Steph's age is 37, right? I think you just need to I feel like you kind of put all your cards on the table, go all in. I mean, I think a good example is kind of like the Knicks right now, right? You give a lot up for like Bridges, Cat, right? And now you have Brunson and Josh Hart and and OG Anunoby, right? You have like a really good like 5 to 7 players, right? I think we need something similar in that manner if we can get Giannis. But that also means we probably have to like give up a lot more and pay a lot more in order to get him. So I think that's kind of like what my direction is right now. I would love to have Giannis and like having and just hearing Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, and Giannis all on the same floor. I think
I don't think that's
so
even
good.
possible. But
That wouldn't be feasible from a cap perspective, right?
no, I don't think
That'd be
works.
lovely if
That's
true.
the thing,
but
right?
yeah,
That would be
Like,
crazy, but
because
we had to give up a lot.
I think you have to give up Butler. That's the thing. That's why I said Draymond and Steph are probably going to be there, guaranteed. I would even throw Draymond as like not guaranteed, but the only reason why he probably is because he's a franchise legend and Steph probably wants him here, right? But
And he's our good defensive anchor.
yeah, and like Giannis. But I mean, let me just say this about Giannis: like, in no uncertain terms should you you have to pursue Giannis. And it's not even just from a contending standpoint. It's not even for I need Steph to get a 5th ring standpoint. It's Giannis Antetokounmpo. Every team, all 29 teams should want him, right? Will everyone trade
Yeah.
the same amount to get him? No, but he is a star. He is like one of the top 3 players right now in the NBA. You have Jokic, you have like Luka, Shea, and Giannis has to be in that conversation. He's probably 3rd in MVP voting right now, and he's probably been 3rd in MVP voting for like the last couple of years because he's that good. Like, he's great offensively, he's great defensively. He will do everything for you. He's won a championship before as the guy. Like, this should be like, I would trade literally everybody. I would trade every single player. Not Steph. I won't trade Steph because I'm very partial towards him. But even like if Steph is gone after a couple of years, you still have Giannis Antetokounmpo to contend for championships. That's the thing. Like, he can contend on his own for championships, much less paired with Steph Curry. Like, you saw like Damian Lillard, he was out for, the last stretch of the season. Even when he wasn't there, they were competing. Even when he was there or without him, he's always competing for championships. You trade everything. You trade Podziemski, you trade Moody, you trade Kuminga, you trade, your first 5 first-round picks after Steph leaves. You trade your firstborn for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's how like adamant I'm about, because like this is a prime player. This is a player in his prime, a superstar player in his prime. Like, you do everything for him.
I mean, it would be malpractice if you didn't do your due diligence in pursuing Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, this is one of the 3 best players of this decade, this past decade. There's just really no other superlative that is comparable to the situation. You are obligated. If you are a franchise with a half-working brain, sorry, Pelicans, you simply just have to. You simply have to go for Giannis. I mean, you have to take a swing at it, man. There's really no other way to slice it and cut it.
Yeah,
In no ambiguous terms, you go for Giannis. You trade everyone outside of your franchise, who is basically Steph Curry. Everyone else needs to be on the table, and this is a business. Everyone understands the moment, what it takes to win a championship. I guarantee you right now that the Warriors front office is having conversations about making a serious pursuit.
Yeah, like
I would
Jimmy
trust
Butler.
Mike Dunleavy. I would
Yeah,
trust him.
Like Jimmy Butler, yeah, you would trade him. Like, I love Jimmy right now, but he has a salary right now to probably match Antetokounmpo's salary. Yes, you should trade Jimmy Butler for Giannis if you have the ability to. Like, it would suck, but it's the right thing to do, and I think even Jimmy would understand, right?
It's like when I believe Tatum or Brown, I might be misremembering the NBA player, but then they were saying something along the lines of, or rather, it might have been Bridges or Johnson.
Yeah,
Where they were like, yeah, I would see myself getting traded for KD. I completely understand it's a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rational firms, a rational NBA front office would do what it takes to build the best roster. If there is a move on the table that does it, I feel like you have to do it. I think sentiments are a beautiful and lovely thing in NBA front office franchises. I mean, you saw how Bob Myers basically made a career out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But when he left, he kind of left us in a situation financially where, you give this huge contract to Jordan Poole and you really make moves and you aren't willing to sort of let others go and be willing to play bad cop. And I feel like you just need that edge of being able to be very brutally rational at times and just knowing how to like, make a move and just building the best roster available.
Yeah, if I hear some shit like, oh, we couldn't trade for Giannis because Pajemski was off the table, I'm gonna fucking lose my shit. Don't fucking do that. Trade anyone you can if Giannis is on the table and he wants to come here. Like, if he wants to come, I feel like the only way we're going to get it is if he wants to come here, because I don't think we have the resources or the players to stack up with, let's say, the Spurs or, anybody else right now, like Miami or whoever or the Rockets, right?
If
we
he
probably
comes,
don't have
everyone
it.
else will come.
Yeah, like Steph and Giannis and Green, that's enough. Everyone else will come after that. But speaking of everybody else at this point, like, okay, let's get back to the free agents here for a second. Looney and Payton, I love them, but I would look to upgrade from them this offseason. I feel like we're going to re-sign them, but they're very limited players. They're very limited players in their own right, and I love both of them. Kevon's been there with all the championship years. Payton, I mean, we got the chance to meet Gary Payton too. Remember, he dapped us up.
Really nice guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Amazing person. But I feel like we could use for an upgrade, right? And, Kuminga is the big part, right? He's a restricted free agent. And I think we have the ability, we could do a sign and trade, right? I think that's like one of the resources that they could use in order to kind of get maybe like Cam Johnson's been a name that has been circulating around a lot of Warriors fans. Trade him to Brooklyn, get Cam Johnson back. Cam Johnson's a good 3-and-D guy. He's kind of big, so he could play forward, right? These are the things that the Warriors need to do because they don't have a lot in terms of resources. They can't offer a lot of money. They have probably a lot of just minimum contracts they can offer. Kuminga is really the only piece that they can really trade in terms of in terms of salary matching, unless you want to give up Butler in that. They have a little bit, I think, of like trade exceptions, but I'm not quite remembering the details of that. So they have very little resources to work with right now. If you had to like look at anybody that you want to bring in right now for the Warriors that isn't Giannis, let's just say Giannis is like a dream scenario, but who's some players that you have in mind, or what do you want to bring in? Like you don't even have to bring up a player's name, but just like, oh, I need a big man. We need a big man, or we need a 3-point shooter. What do you think? Who would you do?
I think for me, I think we need either a big man, or for sure a big man, a 5 who can also stretch the floor out better than Quinn Post. Mm-hmm. So I would say like Naz Reid. I really love what he does. Especially when he kills us with the threes. Nick Claxton would be a good one, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And if those two doesn't work out, I kind of agree with the Warriors fan base of trying to see if we can grab Cam Johnson from the Nets, because I think the Nets aren't really doing much as a team. They could possibly need another rebuild, and I think Cam Johnson might help with his services.
In terms of the player archetypes, I'm not going to name names that are realistic, but in terms of the player mold that I want to see on the Warriors, I think first to guys like Jaren Jackson Jr., bigs that do stretch the floor, provide incredible defense inside the paint, and are able to be reliable offensive threats night in and night out. I also think to guys like Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, maybe because I really like what the Knicks did with getting both of those guys.
OG's great.
But those 3 guys I mentioned, like the archetypes of the OG Mikal or like a Jaren Jackson Jr.,
they're tough, right?
They're very tough, but they're such prized archetypes of players that you want to have. Like no roster can get enough of those guys, and they're big too, and they offer incredible value both offensively and defensively. So if you're able to land any sort of player that mimics that mold or can kind of recreate it in the aggregate Moneyball style, you go for it, right? I think realistically those are way out of our budget. It's not really possible. Dillon, I really like the Claxton name that you bring up. I've been a fan of his for a while now. Cam Johnson is also a very realistic free agent, or like a destination for us, like for him coming over as part of a sign and trade with the Nets. I do wonder if there is a market for Kuminga outside of Brooklyn. I feel like we just sort of pencil in Brooklyn because they got a ton of cap space and they're probably looking to tank for the foreseeable future too, right? So
I've
Kuminga
seen
can be that
like
tank
Portland
commander.
or Sacramento mentioned. I don't know how realistic it is or if the rumors are true. If it was Sacramento, like I'm thinking Keegan Murray. I'm
Keegan,
thinking
yeah.
who's that guy? Malik Monk. Oh my God! If we had Malik Monk as a six man, I'd love that.
He's probably their best player right now, if I'm being real, Malik Monk. Like he is like from whenever I talk to Sacramento fans, he kind of represents sort of the heart and soul of the franchise right now in the
What
post De'Aaron
suffering?
Fox landscape. Misery. But he's I don't know if Monk's possible, but yeah, I love Keegan. Keegan's kind of had a slower, last few years of his career after a great rookie season and the light the beam season.
Hmm.
If you're mentioning the Blazers, I really like Tumani Kamara.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's not really like super great on offense, but his defense is really something special. Just guys like that. I don't think they'd be willing to trade Klingon
Anthony
or
Simons maybe.
Simon. I mean, I feel like Simons for Kuminga's a huge win for us.
We need that six
That I
man,
don't know if
right?
that's possible. Yeah,
I think as long as we get someone who can like, I think I was thinking about it too. I think if we can get someone who can like, other than Jimmy, hit mid range, take advantage of the mid range spacing, that
Hmm.
would be great for us too. Because I think from the playoffs, right, you see all like every single team. Like I think the greatest example is the Rockets. Every time we bring up the ball across midcourt, they always hound us on the 3-pointers, or they always try to cover the 3-point line. If we can just get someone that can help support Jimmy and like be able to make, it's hard to get someone who can create their own shot, but just someone who can reliably hit mid-range floaters or just jumpers in general.
Yeah.
I think that will help us a lot too.
I think it's just shooters, right? Like a mid-range shooter is great. Just the shooter in general, like the three. Like I'm looking at the roster right now. Again, the names that are on the roster. Who do you think is a shooter in that? I think of three: Butler, Heald, and Curry. Pajemski maybe, and then everyone else is like okay. Sometimes they'll hit a three on occasions when they're wide open, like Gary Payton, right? Draymond, Kuminga. Those are the guys like maybe they can do. Guy Santos, right? Quentin Post. Those are like maybe shooters. They only shoot when they're wide open. But we need a guy who can like reliably do it. Like again, Otto Porter was so like he's so underrated in his ability to do that. Andrew Wiggins
His
in the
turnaround.
2022. Yeah. Like all of these guys like they could at least like Wiggins could create a shot sometimes. And I wish we had Wiggins back. Man, that would be nice if
it would be
like
nice. I feel like Wiggins, it's just inconsistent with him.
hmm.
I love
But
the
if
way he
he's
did
like
on
the
his
third
best
option,
days.
like if he's third option, I feel like he'd be okay, right?
He'd be okay. Like he'd be definitely serviceable. I mean, he was our second best player in 2022 championship,
Hmm.
right? So there's always that. But if you can, like I'm always biased towards youth and switchability. Wiggins was a good switchable defender, great rebounder. If you can sort of get players like that,
Who's that archetype
for
you guys are
cheap.
talking about? Like OG
OG's a
Wiggins?
good example.
OG, McHale, like
Yeah.
those are guys who are good shooters. They're known for their defense, but McHale can create a shot. Like he was the first option for the Nets, so he's demonstrated the ability. OG, like yeah, he'll hit threes. As soon as he's on the court side, yeah, you already know what he's about to do, man. But like,
He'll
if he
go
can
crazy. Or Anne Hathaway.
get
Oh my
Hathaway
God.
too, man. But that's the point, right? Like, if you can get a roster with guys like that, I feel like that's what the meta is in
Hmm.
terms of. I mean, you look at Aaron Gordon right now. I mean, you need guys like that on
Just
your
3 and D
roster.
forwards, basically, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And Aaron Gordon was able to evolve his game when he went from the Magic to the Nuggets.
Yeah, he was a lot more of
So
a shooter, off ball, kind of playmaker as well. Um, three things. I'm gonna list three things that I think the Warriors really need in the offseason. One, I think they need a big who can actually give some rim protection, be a starter so Draymond doesn't blow out his back in the regular season, and set screens, get rebounds. Rebounds is so important. Like that, kill this in the Rockets series. We need someone who can actually do that, right? We need an actual big. Come on, get a 7-footer for once. Second, we need a shooter other than Steph and Hield because that's not enough. We need someone to actually space the floor other than those two. And if possible, it could be the same person or it could be a different person, a sixth man. Like we need someone who can actually create their own shot. You give them the ball and they can actually, look to score. And they know that it's their job to score. Oh, God. I remember he was here and we just didn't do anything with him. But, I mean, so some of the guys I'm looking at for that is, a big that I haven't heard us mention yet, but I'd really, really want Steven Adams, man. Can you imagine Steven Adams in a Warriors jersey? And he's setting those screens for Steph. He's getting the rebounds for him. He's actually, like in the paint and he can do stuff. Like, and he can be an actual rim protection presence. Like, I would love that.
But he's also kind of old, though. How old is Steven Adams?
Steven Adams is maybe like 31, maybe? I don't know.
He says early 30s, I want to say. I'm gonna look this up.
He's 31. So, like, I'm okay with that. Like, apparently there's rumors that we're looking at Brook Lopez, and he's way older, and he's not as much of a rim protection
No, we
presence.
need young men's club. We need young men's club for the Golden State Warriors. That's why I'm like, I want Nick Claxton.
Claxton is good, but I don't know his game. I'm not too familiar with his game too well. Is he a good defender?
He's a good defender. Yeah, he made All NBA defense conversations in the past, but injuries and not much visibility, and then that's post KD. I've had him on fantasy for the past couple years too, so I'm a little biased, but
yeah,
he's a sleeper pick. I mean, he's a really good player, but I don't know if the Nets want to part with a guy like that because it's hard to find young guys like Claxton,
Yeah, and then like shooters other than Seth Curry is a free agent, by the way, guys. Like, he could be a shooter that I could see going on a minimum deal to help with the Warriors, right? Or like Spencer Dinwiddie. He's kind of, I feel like Dinwiddie could be like a six-man kind of guy where he just looks to create his own shot because if you've ever seen Spencer Dinwiddie play, he literally just only shoots. He doesn't shoot great shots, but he will shoot the ball. And I would be okay with him, because we just need someone who can actually like create their own shot. And then I know DeAnthony Melton is someone that the Warriors fans really want back. He was great on defense with us. He was a great compliment to Steph. It would be nice to see him back on a vet minimum deal.
He really worked with the Warriors in his limited time on the court. Like, I think that was the free agent signing I was actually most excited about this past offseason because Melton was excellent on the Grizzlies and Sixers. So, yeah, I hope that pans out. I feel like that's very realistic. Adams, too. I mean, Adams can basically play the role of Bogut. So that's very natural.
Such a
you
likable
get a guy from Australia,
too.
Now I get a guy from New Zealand doing the big man screen. So get some Oceania representation. That's always a good thing for the Warriors historically, right?
That's the thing. Like, everyone talks about the rim protection presence of a center, and like maybe you can throw him lobs. I don't think you're gonna really throw Steven Adams lobs, like, and he's not great as a free throw guy. But I mean, setting screens is the biggest thing for a Warriors offense, right? Especially for Steph. You make Steven Adams set screens for Steph, I think he's gonna be a lot more open.
Right. I mean, his presence alone just alters the game because you have to be aware of that. It's like when Bogut was on the floor, like, when Andrew Bogut is playing basketball and is under the hoop, or even JaVale, right? Like, these are huge guys who know how to play within the offense and get the rest of the four teammates going.
We're going to talk a lot more about the Warriors offseason and free agency, probably around our offseason free agency episode in June, but that's a little preview of that. A lot of Warriors post-mortem. Do we feel like we've hit acceptance yet, guys? Do we need another hour?
I do feel a little bit better, but it's just you still feel the disappointment and like the what if.
Talking helps, but that time's limited with Curry not being too far away from retirement. Like, I don't know how long this offensive system where a 37, 38-year-old Steph running around with superhuman conditioning, whether that's going to be the best style of basketball, both for the sake of the Warriors and for Steph's sake, because the Warriors, like, they need to sort of find an identity beyond Steph too, for their own sake.
Mhm.
And there's gonna be a time where, Steph retires, his jersey's in the rafters, and you have to think a little bit ahead and anticipate a little bit. That's why the Giannis situation is very intriguing. Whatever
It
happens
has to
with
be
that,
honest, please.
it has to be, right? But like, I do want to see an evolution of the Warriors where Steph shouldn't have to be a superhuman. Like,
Mhm.
he's done it for too long. It just doesn't feel right and sustainable.
No, I agree. I think the only way the Warriors win a championship at this point is if they build a roster around Steph. I will give them some grace this time. I won't give them grace for this offseason, last offseason, because they really thought they could go into the season with a 12-man rotation with a bunch of randos and think like, oh, Steph and a bunch of randos is a championship caliber team. That was ridiculous. I will always maintain that. But I will give them some grace that when they traded Butler, they got rid of a lot of players that were part of their original plan, right? And now we had guys like Pat Spencer, who I love, but, probably shouldn't have been seeing playoff minutes in a realistic scenario. And, Kevin Knox and Guy Santos and whatnot, right? We really had to dig deep because we got rid of Schroeder, we got rid of Wiggins, we got rid of Kyle Anderson, we got rid of a lot of, bench players that we were playing with. So that's why our bench was so barren. We were kind of makeshifting this roster at the end of the season, and getting this far is good. It's good in perspective. We still won a playoff series. We still upset a very talented second seed team as a 7th seed. But I agree that the only way to go 4 rounds, like back-to-back games or like one day break in between games, is you're going to have to build a roster that makes Steph not as tired, that, isn't built on 38-year-old Steph, 36-year-old Butler, 36-year-old Green. Like, these guys are going to get tired because this is a war of attrition in the playoffs. And you need a much better roster around them. And I fully trust Steve Kerr's ability to make sure every guy stays ready. Strength in numbers has always been the culture with him. And now it's just up to Mike Dunleavy and Joe Lacob. They got to figure it out. Like, this is the window. You got 2 years, max. 1 year right now. I expect a lot from them this offseason.
There needs to be urgency, and I trust that Mike Dunleavy Jr. is going to operate with that. So that's all I really have to say about it. I hope it works out for the best.
All right. We'll do some more therapy maybe later. Again, join our Discord. Maybe we can do some therapy in there as well. Maybe we'll do a Twitter space and we'll vent a little bit more. Because I could talk about the Warriors for hours. We talked about them for a whole hour. This is not how long the segment was supposed to go.
Right now. Yeah.
But, that's time flies when you're griping, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, but we really got to move on here. Let's go to the teams that are still in the playoffs, the conference finals. There's final 4 teams left. We just saw the Thunder obliterate the Nuggets off the face of the earth today in Game 7. So now...
I didn't watch it.
You didn't watch
but
it?
I was surprised how they cleared Aaron Gordon, though, to play with a grade 2 hamstring, or I don't know what injury it was.
It was a grade 2
Was it-
hamstring sprain.
Grade
it
two.
was a
months.
hamstring?
It's months of recovery. So I'm very, very surprised. He looked good, but I was very surprised.
I mean, he's an incredible athlete. Everyone knows this, but I don't think he should have played because a
Probably
grade
not.
2 hamstring is a really serious injury.
When they
But
say
I respect
sprain
it.
and it's a grade 2, that means it's torn. It is torn. It might be not a big tear, but it's a torn hamstring. And, okay, I mean, you said you didn't watch the game. Like, when your team's out, do you really care that much? Do you watch all the games at that point? Because I felt like when the Warriors were playing, I was watching every other team. Because honestly, like, a little bit of me was like, I was excited to see the teams, but also I was watching to see and analyzing and researching how the Warriors would beat that team as well, right? But now, like, when they're out, I just kind of not care as much. And there's not even like a real hate watch team either. Like, the Lakers are out. Are you guys still gonna be watching, basically?
I personally want to keep tabs on the Pacers versus Knicks because I really like the Knicks roster this season, and I'm a big fan of Jalen Brunson and what he's been doing.
I think for me, basketball is like, I love the logical X's and O's and the strategy behind it. But I think as I become more of an older sports fan, it's really about the loyalty and the passions and really the emotion and excitement. So seeing teams like, the Thunder, like their fan base and the Pacers fan base and especially the Knicks fan base, oh my God, like just the energy that they carry outside the court and into the streets, like those are the things that get me really excited for basketball. It's really about the vibes and the energy for me. So as long as they bring it, like I'd still be locked in. But to be honest with you, like it just doesn't hit the same when
Yeah.
the Warriors or like your favorite team isn't there. Like I appreciate the game as a neutral observer. I'll study it. I'll watch what they're doing. I'll like see if they do some moves that maybe like I could try on the basketball court or what I'd like to see the Warriors do, for example, right? When I watch like Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, I just think to myself, that's awesome that they have two guys like that can complement Brunson and Hart,
It's like that's
right?
nice, but it's just like you don't really like. Oh, you're not on your
Yeah,
feet. Yeah, that's the thing.
it
I was
doesn't
on my
like
feet the
arouse your
entire time
emotions
for
and
like
stir
the
them.
Warriors games, right? Yeah.
Yeah, or like when the Niners aren't playing too. Like, yeah, I mean, of course I'll watch playoff football. It's really exciting, but like
Playoff football is different though because there's so many more teams to hate watch. Like that
that's
Chiefs
true.
hate watch, Eagles hate watch. That's what I was just doing.
And that's the emotion in it too. And there's so much variance because it's all scoped within one game, which
Hmm.
really intensifies the stakes.
Yeah.
But nothing beats watching your hometown team or the team that you just grew up supporting. There's really no other comparison or feeling in the world like it.
Yeah. I have a second general question, but I'll get to it at the end here. Let's talk with the Eastern Conference Finals first. We got the Pacers, we got the Knicks. This is a 90s throwback right here. And this is a rematch of last year's conference semifinals where the Pacers won in 7 against the Knicks last year. Jalen Brunson very notably broke his hand in the middle of that game as well, so that might have influenced it a little bit. But the Pacers, they won the last time the Knicks were in the Eastern Conference Finals, which I think was back in 2000. It was Pacers-Knicks, and the Pacers won, went on to face the Lakers. So this should be very interesting. I feel like this will be a very gritty kind of basketball here, they both came up with very big upsets. Neither of them were supposed to be here. It was supposed to be the Cavs Celtics. Now it's these two. So initial thoughts, takes. What do you guys think?
Pretty fun series. I like the fact that, the conventional wisdom, including ours, I believe, was thrown out the window, with the Pacers and Knicks being able to pull through. So just off rip, shout out to that. I
Hmm.
always like a good upset, a good little wrinkle in the timeline. I think that I don't know. I think that Tyrese Halliburton has been great this postseason. The Pacers have been statistically like a top three, top five offense and defense since the All Star break. They were
Hmm.
one of the hottest teams in the whole league, and I'm not that surprised that they are playing this well. Like Rick Carlisle has been doing a great job, and they really are a full machine right now with a great rotation. The Knicks, like, I mean, they're pulling out wins. Joe Brunson's been incredibly clutch. I mean, what are your thoughts on Cat? I want to get your take on that.
I've never been a big fan of Cat, and I think you know this. Like I've said this multiple times that I don't feel like I think Cat can be a lot better of a player than he is right now, because the way he plays it's not conducive towards greater success. Like it looks like sometimes he is inside. Like I could go on and on, but I'm like, first of all, he gets
Oh my
into a lot of foul
god.
trouble. I won't talk about that because that has nothing to do with basketball. But he gets these fouls that are just stupid, very very stupid, and he gets himself in foul trouble a lot, and then he complains about it, and then he puts himself at the 3-point line, just take these 3-point shots when sometimes all his team needs is a guy who can go up and post up. Like Jalen Brunson and Cat should be the two main scorers at all times, right? They're the two most talented scorers on the team. So if Jalen Brunson, he has to always, go inside. He has to do all this crazy stuff, dribble, drive, get the foul called sometimes, and then as Cat, you got to do the same thing. You got to post up in there and get that. You can't always just wait at the 3-point line, because not only are you sometimes going to hit that three, sometimes they don't. And like last in game 6, he was chucking up shots that just had no business. Like sometimes you just have to actually just go inside, because you're the only guy big enough to actually do that right now in the court. Boston had nobody in there. Kristaps was sick. Cornet, is okay, but he's not some kind of like almighty rim protector out there. Just post up inside. And I don't think you can tolerate that against the Pistons, because the Pacers, they are in a remarkable offense. They obliterated the Cavs off the face of like everything in game 5. Game 4, they had like a 40-point lead. They were up, like they scored 80 by halftime. I think the Pacers are the best offense right now in this conversation in the entire playoffs right now, because they can beat you from every single like person. They got Halliburton, they got Nembhard, they got what's that other guy's name?
Siakam,
Neesmith, right? Like they got so many
Obi
weapons.
Toppin's contributing too.
Yeah. McConnell, like they've got a complete team. Like what we talk about with the Warriors needing is what the Pacers have. They have strength in numbers. They have a complete team that everyone can score. And that's the biggest thing, is like, will the Knicks be able to keep up? That's my biggest concern with that. Is like, because Boston, when we saw that series, Knicks versus Celtics, there's a lot of times where Boston completely like froze out and they went completely cold. Like they didn't make a shot for like a lot of the fourth quarter. Jason Tatum was struggling for the first 2 games. Kristaps was, sick, and he really wasn't that effective. And the Knicks were able to come back several times. The Pacers just make me feel more comfortable with their situation, because even when the Cavs started going on those like, big runs and stuff, you knew that the Pacers were going to come back and just, keep on going. Like game 5 Cavs versus Pacers, Cavs were up for a good part of it. And then the Pacers just found a way to keep on going, keep on scoring. Like, I don't know if the Knicks are going to be able to keep up, especially if Cat's going to do his like, hijinks and stuff like that and make these terrible shot selections.
Overall, if you had to choose a winner of this series, because I completely agree with the thesis that the Pacers are just the best offense by none in the rest of this postseason conversation. But do you think it stops here, or do you think that the Knicks are able to pull one out?
I think the Knicks is going to pull it out. I think it all depends on Cat.
Is it just because you like New York fans, Dillon?
No,
it's because you want the side talk content.
The side talk video. The side talk videos go crazy though. Every time they, like, for example, when, I know this is off tangent, but when the Knicks beat the Hawks, they went pretty crazy.
You fuck Trae Young.
You fuck Trae Young. Exactly. But I think it's, for me, I think it's just Knicks have a really good, like, they know how to play around Brunson, and Brunson knows how to like set up his teammates, similar to like how Tyrese is. But I think I would go in favor of Brunson. But it's like what you just said, Matt. It really depends on Cat being able to compete with the Miles Turners, right? Pascal Siakam and like Obi Toppin, right? Because those 3 guys are big, and like the Knicks, you only Cat. There's Cat and there's Mitchell Robinson, but Mitchell Robinson's not really a outside threat.
No.
Right? And if Cat can do both, shoot outside and inside, then I would want to side with the Knicks. So, but I think also one more thing, Knicks has a little bit more stretch than the Pacers. You think about it with like what we talked about with Mikal, and you talked about with OG Anunoby, and including Josh Hart, right? When those 3 can also stretch the floor better. I think they stretch the floor better than the Pacers. So I gotta go with I'm gonna say Knicks in 6.
Knicks in 6. All right. I mean, Dillon, you've been a fan of the Knicks the entire series. Like, you picked them last time, even though me and G still picked Boston. So I mean, you got some touch when it comes to the Knicks. The fans love you probably there. They probably hate me though, because I'm gonna go against them again. I'm gonna go Pacers in 5 here.
In 5, wow.
5.
You didn't learn your lesson, old man.
I think, again, I'm concerned that the Pacers look amazing. That's the thing. The Pacers look amazing. And this is more of a compliment to Indiana than it is an insult to New York, because I just feel like they're clicking on all cylinders here. They're not going to run up against the Celtics like they did last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, where, they had almost the lead in almost every single one. They were competitive in all 4 of those games, even though it was a sweep. This is the Knicks. I think they have enough offense to be able to do it, and it really comes down to whether Bridges and OG Anunoby are going to be consistent enough besides Jalen Brunson. I think that Brunson's amazing, and I think he'll get his. Cat will get 15 to 20 points per game, and then it's going to decide based off of, Bridges and OG to do the rest. But I don't trust the Knicks enough to find the offensive output, just like I do with the Pacers. I feel like everyone can get theirs with the Pacers. So, and if I'll raise the stakes here, if the Knicks somehow make the finals, like, despite all my, doubts and, hate against them, I will go to New York myself for the NBA Finals. I'll wear a Steph Curry jersey in the streets of New York and see what they do to me. Like,
and get a bag. That garbage thrown at you.
I promise you this, Knicks fans. If you guys make it to the finals, I will show up. I will be there for you guys.
So consequential. Oh no, you have to go to New York City.
Guaranteed.
It's terrible. It's so anywhere a Steph Curry jersey too.
No, don't do this to me.
Awful.
Don't. Yeah. The only thing worse is if you paid for all of it. If you all paid for it. No, don't do it.
You'd be like the biggest villain there since Trae Young, obviously, for picking these Pacers. But nah, I'm gonna do the same. I'm going with the Pacers because, I feel like it's just really a war of attrition these days with the NBA. I'm gonna be so honest with you. Like, I haven't really been watching full Pacers games this postseason. Just mostly been watching the highlights. But man, those highlights might be biased, but that offense, it's crazy. It's just a fires on all cylinders. It's led by Halliburton, obviously, but like you said, man, everyone's able to get theirs, and it just seems like a better rested team. I feel like Dibs just has the tendency of running his players till the wheels fall off, and I feel like it's gonna catch up eventually, even though they're all like noted. Cats play under Dibs, Josh Hart's an Iron Man. OG's been healthy. McHale's the definition of an Iron Man, and Brunson is as great as they come, but the Pacers are coming off of more rest, and I just think that momentum is such a huge thing, and Carlisle is a fantastic coach. They got what it takes to pull it out. I'm going to respect the Knicks a little bit. I'm going to say Pacers in 6, but it's going to be a fun series.
I do want to put out there that Knicks also has momentum going to this. They just blew out Boston by like 30 points.
Very fair. Very fair.
That's valid.
Yeah. All right. Oh, and G also, again, he couldn't make it, but he put in his prediction. He's got the Pacers in 7. So 3-1 Pacers for now. All right. Let's go to the Western Conference Finals. We got the Timberwolves. We got the Thunder. That was decided just a couple hours ago. Everyone's talking about this where it's like all 4 teams are like, oh, this will end a championship drought for all 4 of these teams. We should respect it. We love parity. I'm like, I don't care about the Thunder, man. I respect them. They did a very good job in this series. But of all the teams I want to see win the championship right now, I think I'd put the Thunder at the least right now. I'd put like the least watched one. Like, I get it. They're a 68-win team. And that just makes them like, you just hate a team just because they're the most successful one and they're the one who everyone expects to win. That's kind of how I feel with the Thunder.
It's kind of like us back then.
Like, I get it now. Like, I get it from the other side of the, shoe right here.
They became Goliath.
Yeah. So I was really rooting for the Nuggets, you guys. But here we are. We have this Western Conference Finals. It should still be a good one. We got 2 young players in Ant-Man, and we got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Both boast a very, great 8-man rotation. What do you guys think about this matchup?
Ooh, this one's a tough one because this is the first time. I think it is the first time for this current iteration of the Thunder to be in the conference finals.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a little bit interesting for them because I don't think they have a lot of veterans who's been in this position other than, like, for example, Alex Caruso.
Mm-hmm.
But I also really like, I mean, the T-Wolves, oh my God. Like, I remember going into the series with them, like, just hearing Anthony Edwards, who is it? Nikhil Alexander Walker. You hear Naz Reid. You hear Dante DiVincenzo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just all those names, and just like how they play the game, and especially with Coach Finch, I I kind of want to go with the T Wolves, to be honest, and just like I feel like they're much more aggressive than the Thunder, and I think they're gonna go at. I feel like they're gonna go at Chet, because Chet is 7 foot, but this guy is like a stick, bro. And
You think he's gonna
I
go
think they
flying
should-
or some shit on a post up?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Edwards tried to challenge him in the post, or tries to throw one down on him.
That's fair.
I think the T-Wolves might get this. It's just dependent on like same factors as before, like DiVincenzo and like Julius Randle, and how engaged they're gonna be and how much they can contribute. Because I know like the other people I talked about, they're gonna find ways to score, but from the last series against the Warriors, Julius Randle had a great series, regardless if Steph Curry was playing or not playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think looking at DiVincenzo, he's been kind of quiet, and I believe like at some point he's gonna wake up and he's gonna help contribute in big ways against the Thunder. So I'm gonna go with T-Wolves on this.
Ooh, okay. I mean, I want to point out two things that I think are going to be really important. You talked about nerves, Dylan. This will be the Thunder's first Western Conference Finals appearance, but I do agree that, and the Timberwolves have been here before, right? They were just here last year. But I think this series against Denver really sharpened them, right? Because this is the first time they were really down 2-1, right? They were down last time. Obviously, they lost the series against the Mavericks, but this is the first time they were able to climb back and kind of win the series, in 7. And, they just faced against kind of a veteran-heavy championship caliber team that has won it before in Denver. They were able to still beat them in 7. The nerves got to them a little bit, I think, in that first quarter in Game 7, but they were able to steady the course, rely on their defense, and win handedly at that. So I think once you get past a series like this, I feel like you get so much more confident in yourselves, and like you get that experience. And once you say that you've been there before, I feel like, okay, now we know how to do it. Just like with the Timberwolves last year when they beat the Nuggets in 7. Like now you felt like, okay, now they've arrived. Now they have that kind of playoff experience. So I think that will be interesting if that carries over in this conference finals. The second thing is that I think the bigs of the Timberwolves, I feel like if there's ever a weakness in the Thunder, it's the fact that their bigs are not that impressive. You got Hartenstein, which is okay, but then you have Chet Holmgren, like you said, Dylan. Like I don't know if he's as big of a presence as we think he is, right? And now you have to go up against Gobert and Randall. I don't know who they're gonna have to defend Randall, and Gobert, maybe he's gonna eat, maybe he's not. I don't really know if he's been a little bit inconsistent, I think, in his ability. He struggled a little bit against the Warriors in terms of rebounding, but I think Jokic was amazing in rebounding. The whole Nuggets team was too. So I think those are the biggest things I want to look for when it comes to it.
This is a really interesting series to analyze, because I think that this really is the series that determines who the champion's gonna be.
Wow.
So it's very pivotal, and yeah, there's gonna be a lot of eyeballs on this because the narratives are there. It's been there surrounding these two teams all season with Shea and Anthony Edwards, and they're all going to come to a head. It's going to be interesting. I think that looking at the Thunder, they swept Memphis. They were able to get it done in the end. Denver took them to 7, but the Thunder just blew them out. Obviously, you can say Aaron Gordon and Westbrook, and the fact that Denver just doesn't seem to have what it takes to win a championship, but like, this was a team that won the chip before. It's still impressive. You got to tip your hat to them for being able to pull it off. And the Thunder are finally here. Whereas the Timberwolves, for example, once again, they're back. Same position as last season. This time it's different. You got Randall. And Randall looked fantastic against the Warriors. I mean, he was really the prime difference maker. in that series, in my opinion. Anthony Edwards is great, but I think it was Randall who really showed that when he's consistent, his brand of volleyball, his ability to, play this game where he just kind of flails, takes that tough mid-range shot, play very aggressively, but still, get to the free throw line, play defense, pass it out, make the right read. It's a huge difference maker. Like a locked-in Julius Randle can very much so be the difference in this series. But I don't know. I think that what I'm looking for is really the Hardenstein and Holmgren versus the Randall and Gobert matchup. And I feel like that's really where I'd put my money on who the winner is going to be decided by. Because, yeah, Shea's going to get his. Ant's going to get his. I think it's going to be a big man series. And, yeah, this is a really hard decision for me, too. Momentum says you go with the Wolves, but the whole season says you should go with the Thunder.
Yeah. And I want to point out one last thing. Like, I'll let you give your prediction in a second, but I want to point out a couple things as well. Like, the Nuggets, I mean, they could have won this series if they won Game 4 or Game 5, right? They had the lead in the fourth quarter in both of those, and I think that the Thunder were able to come back and win those because Jokic was doing a shit ton of things. Michael Porter Jr. was doing fuck all, and basically they weren't hitting their shots, and the Thunder kept doing it, and they were able to come back and close. Like the Timberwolves, when they started to struggle, right, against the Warriors, the Warriors started to get the momentum in Game 3. They had the lead in the fourth quarter. They were able to close. Or in the fourth quarter, in the fourth game, they were tied or down by 2 at halftime. They were able to go on this huge run and close it in the third quarter, right? Same with the Game 5, right? This won't be the same kind of thing. The Timberwolves know how to close a game. The Nuggets weren't able to do that because they have the kind of playmakers like Randall and like Edwards. But the only thing with the Timberwolves is that sometimes it looks like the Timberwolves kind of play to their competition, right? Like even when they were against the Steph Curry-less Warriors, it looked like the game was close for the first half.
A lot of it, yeah.
Yeah, and they kept struggling with the shots, or their mentality was a little bit off. Chris Finch had to remind them, you guys are playing like losers out there. You guys have to actually close this game, right? That's the kind of attitude, will the Timberwolves be able to maintain that level of composure? If they play to the level of competition, and the level of competition is a 68-win team, you should expect them to be able to play like elite players, right, the entire time. But I don't know if that's going to be necessarily the case here, right?
Yeah. I think I know what your prediction is off of that, Matt. I'm going to guess Thunder.
Yeah, I am going with the Thunder in 6. I will give the Timberwolves a little bit of respect here, give them 2 games. But I think the Thunder right now, again, like I've said, all postseason long, they are one of the most complete teams right now. They won 68 games for a reason, and every time, now I get to watch them a lot more because they're not just on NBA TV against the Grizzlies, is that, Shea just hits everything, and they just make timely shots when it matters, and Caruso is a defensive menace, and their defense is so relentless. When they get on a run, it's fueled entirely by their defense, and we saw it today in Game 7. It's really hard to beat that, and even when they don't have a lot of bigs, their interior scoring defense is elite. They just got bodies in there. So I'm just going to go with the Thunder because I think they're a little bit more of a consistent team.
I think that's the valid consensus take, probably. I think that there are people that give the Wolves credit, but I think that the Thunder are more likely to win this from a statistical perspective. But here's what I'm going to do.
Oh, no.
My head says the Thunder, but my heart says the Wolves. I think the T-Wolves pulled the upset, man.
Fuck your heart, man.
Man.
Damn.
More like after Hardenstein, am I right? Nah, but here's the thing, right? I think that there's a certain je ne sais quoi, this certain ineffable, articulate thing that I just can't really pinpoint, but I just have this strange premonition and vibe that there's gonna be some crazy upset, and I think it's gonna be a closer series than people give credit to.
Mm-hmm.
The Thunder are coming in as this incredible 68-win team, stacked on both ends, just great roster construction. Everyone sort of knows the job that's been done by the front office over there and the all-time work done by Sam Presti. But it just feels like the perfect formula and cocktail for a Timberwolves breakthrough. I think that Anthony Edwards, and if Randall can especially keep this up, you don't know. You never know. I'm never going to count them out, and maybe this is me just being a little contrarian to your current take, Matt, but I think the Wolves have what it takes. I'm going to say Wolves in 7. I think it's going to be an all-time series.
I agree in that aspect. First of all, real quick, I don't think they have a one-on-one defender against Randall right now. I think they can swarm defense Randall. That's the only thing. Or if they do the same thing where they put Caruso on Jokic, they do the same thing for Randall. But I don't know if they'll get away with it. But we'll see.
You swarm Randall, then there's going to be either Anthony Edwards, Nikhil Alexander open.
Yeah, they got to hit their shots.
McDaniels, you got Nas Reed. I mean, Jaden McDaniels has had a great postseason so far, too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
These are 2 great teams.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm going to go Wolves in 6.
Man, you guys are crazy. Dillon, Viv, and then G also has Wolves in 6.
Going against the current, brother.
What are you guys doing here? I'm the only one who's going to pick the Thunder. Did you guys pick the Nuggets last time? Dillon, did you pick the Nuggets?
Last round?
Yeah, last round. I'm trying to go back to our predictions here. Yeah, you and G picked the Nuggets last time. I'm the only one who picked the Thunder. You guys got a lot of
I had the Thunder winning the championship, dude. So
what happened?
Definitely, I'm being a revisionist, man. The Denver series showed me a couple things. They're a great team, but no one's completely invincible when it comes to the playoffs. I mean, hell, the 2019 Warriors weren't, but that's the topic for another day for other reasons. But
if it's Knicks Thunder in the finals, I gotta fly to New York, and you guys gotta fly to OKC.
I want to see the Knicks, man.
You gotta get condemned to OKC. That's the thing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say Wolves here, man. I might just be a hot take artist. This might be going against my whole brand and ethos, but I feel it.
All right.
And maybe it's also cope too, because if the Dubs lose, why not lose to the
champions? I hate
Conference champions, right?
I don't feel any better when the Chiefs beat our ass every year in the Super Bowl that we lost to the champs.
Actually, it makes the pain sting even more. But then you kind of point to them and be like, yo, we had a chance if you were healthy, right?
That's fair. It's different strokes right there. All right, well, the question I was going to ask is, because the Warriors are out, do you have a team that you're rooting for the rest of the way to, win it all?
I'm not really rooting for in the same way that, I'd root for
of course.
a Steph, obviously, right? But I think this would be me rooting for things that would be objectively entertaining and funny as an outsider. First of all, I really like Tyrese and Anthony Edwards as players, and I think that would just be really funny if they won. But I think if the Knicks make it all the way, this is a terrible way to view basketball. You would want to treat it as a serious sport, but man, just the content of Knicks fans and people going crazy in Midtown
for
Manhattan, and just for the content, bro. Just for the social media.
Damn.
I don't know. I think any of these teams winning, to be honest with you, it would be great for the league, because the Thunder, T-Wolves, Knicks, Pacers, they haven't really captured the national spotlight in terms of being serious finals contenders in a really long time. So honestly, this is great for basketball. All of these teams, they should get one. They should get a Larry O'Brien.
Fuck parody. I want more Warriors dynasty.
I do too, brother. But we had our
Same
time
here, but
four is really good. I'm realizing every single year.
No, I want 5.
You want 5?
I'm greedy.
Bro, I want more than 5, honestly. But I'm so glad that this Warriors dynasty ever became a thing. I remember I've been a fan my whole life. I remember when Steph Curry was just
ankle
rookie.
A newborn.
Broken. Monte Ellis was the leader. David Lee was on the team. So I've been playing on house money my whole NBA fandom, really.
Super, super totally fair, and I agree with that. I will go with the Pacers. I really like the Pacers. I mean, if you guys haven't been listening, I mean, you'd be surprised, but I have basically fawned over the Pacers for the last couple of episodes, and I agree with everything they have there. I love, their fan base is, great, and, Halliburton's a great leader, and I just love the style of basketball they play, and it's exciting, and it's fun, and I don't hate any of their players, so very easy for me to do.
That's valid. Yeah, I think the Pacers are like that's a really fun team to root for sure.
And they're kind of like an underdog. They're like a small market team as well. So I feel like, that's kind of cool.
For me,
I know yours, Dylan. Come on.
Knicks. It's the
yeah,
Knicks.
we know. You know it's the
Dude,
Knicks.
oh my god.
Is it because
I wanna
there's a
see
certain
some
someone?
chaos.
Is there a certain someone else that is rooting for them? Maybe courtside that you're also
Suni?
interested? Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm telling you,
Is that part
man,
of it?
if Suni comes back, OG's gonna drop 50, dude. But I just like from watching the Knicks, like from comparing last year to this year, just losing Dante and just how gritty they were from bringing that grit from last year to this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just amazing what they're able to do and like what Jalen Brunson brings to the table. Like I remember like when the Knicks got rid of Carmelo and like they were kind of like in like a state of like confusion like on who's gonna take up the torch, and once Jalen Brunson came in, like he was like all the pieces started coming together and starting like make Knicks basketball fun again. And I think right now they're in a prime position. I mean, what all the players are doing and like how their mental toughness and just all that coming together at the right time. And I think they're still peaking. And I think it's going to be a really good series against the Pacers. And whoever comes out of the West, it's going to be hard to take on the Knicks, I feel like.
Should be very fun Warriors-less playoffs for the rest of the way. But this is going to do it for the show. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music to hear the latest and greatest of our podcast. Again, our social medias are sports_counsel on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. We are everywhere these days. We are analyzing. Even when we're not on the podcast, we are still kind of publishing our analysis and breakdowns of the games there as well. So be sure to follow that. Discord links are in the bios of every single one of those. So if you want to chat with us live during the game, sweating out parlays, or just seeing like, oh, Brunson just hit that shot, we're always in the Discord. We're always discussing it. So be sure to join right now. So that is gonna do it for this episode. Anything else you guys want to say? It's Valkyrie season, guys. You guys gonna go out?
Oh, that color scheme is so cool. I just love the branding.
I wish them the best, but I'm just sad they cut Caitlyn. I was kind of sad.
That's
I'm
fair.
a little bit bummed.
That's fair. Hey man,
But
long season ahead.
Go New York, go.
Oh my God. Go Valkyries.
Okay.
I'll see ya.
Later.